I used to think that if you gave your all, really put in the time, the care, the grit, it would eventually be recognized. That belief crumbled the day I opened that dusty folder full of old documents. It was a Saturday, like most others, when I dropped by my parents' house. I made that visit almost every weekend. My mom, Donna, never really got the hang of anything digital, so I'd usually help her sort through bills, organize tax forms, and scan the occasional document. That familiar two-story brick house, red and a little worn, had become something of a second home to me. Not just because it was theirs, but because I'd poured nearly 10 years into helping fix it up. Every tile, every repair, a small piece of me. "Can you take a look at this for me?" she asked casually, handing me a messy bundle of papers before disappearing into the backyard to tend to her orchids. I sat down at the dining table, started combing through the pile, and that's when I saw it, a thick, cream-colored envelope with bold letters across the front, estate plan and will. I paused. Not because I was nosy, at least that's the excuse I gave myself, but because I wanted to make sure everything was okay. I'd always been the one to keep things together. The one worrying, organizing, fixing what no one else noticed. But when I flipped to the section about asset distribution, my chest tightened. Everything, and I mean everything, was clearly spelled out. The house, worth over $400,000. The savings account. The brand new SUV. Even Mom's wedding ring. All of it was to go to Tessa, my younger sister. As for me, not a single line. Just a vague sentence tucked in between the legal jargon, "We love both our daughters." I gripped the paper so hard my knuckles turned pale. My mind flashed through every sacrifice I'd made, working 2 jobs to help cover their mortgage, braving snowstorms to bring Mom her medication, climbing onto the roof to replace shingles, unclogging drains, scraping together every extra dollar. And now, it felt like all of it had just been erased by that cold little sentence. I heard her footsteps returning from the yard. Light and casual, like nothing had changed. "Cynthia, did you find the statement?" I stood up, the will still in my hand, and turned slowly to face her. My voice came out steady, almost too calm. "Mom, is this real?" She froze when she saw what I was holding. "Oh, Cynthia. What does that mean?" I cut her off, my throat tightening but my words razor sharp. "After everything I've done for you and Dad, I don't even exist in here." My dad, Mason, wandered in from the living room just then, holding a mug of coffee like he was about to chime in about the weather. "There's no need to react this way, Cynthia. You're doing fine. It's Tessa who still needs support." I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Figuring things out. She hops jobs like changing socks, lives off you too, and can't even manage her own phone bill. Meanwhile, I'm the one who's been paying your mortgage for 2 years. I'm the one who patched the roof in the dead of winter. I've been the glue holding this house together, financially and otherwise." Mom reached for my hand like that simple gesture could somehow undo all of it. "Don't read into it too much. I just wanted your sister to feel secure." I pulled away. Nodded, just barely. My stare went cold. "And what about my security? Or did that not count?" They didn't respond. The silence between us said enough. I placed the will back on the table like it was something poisonous. "Thanks for making it clear where I stand." And then I left. I didn't look back. No one called after me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel heartbroken, I just felt nothing. A quiet, bone-deep emptiness that settled inside me like a winter chill. I never stepped foot in that house again after that day. 2 weeks passed without a single word. No texts. No calls. It was as if I'd vanished from their world. I told myself if they cared, even a little, they'd reach out. But instead of remorse or explanation, I got a message from my dad. Cynthia. This month's mortgage is due. Can you transfer it soon? I just stared at my screen, stunned. Part of me wanted to laugh. No acknowledgement of what had happened. No concern for how I was doing. Just another demand, like I was their personal ATM. I typed out my response slowly, every word cold and final. I think Tessa can handle it. That house is hers now, right? I put the phone down and didn't wait for a reply. 5 minutes later, another message lit up the screen. This time from Mom. Cynthia. Don't do this. We need to talk. But I didn't respond. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even angry. There was just this sharp, clear certainty where my hope used to be. I'd spent years believing that love and loyalty would eventually be noticed. I'd been wrong. And I was done being the savior. 2 days later, I got a message from Tessa. You're overreacting. Mom and Dad didn't mean it like that. You've always been the strong one. I'm just not. You know that. I stared at her words, each one trying to soften the blow, to excuse what couldn't be excused. I typed slowly, letting every word slice through the surface of her carefully worn mask. Then prove you deserve what you've been handed. Start by paying the mortgage. No reply. Not even a half-hearted emoji. Another week slid by in total silence. Then, one Monday morning, as I was cradling my coffee at the kitchen table, my phone buzzed with a transfer request, $2,600. From Mom. No message. No context. Just a sterile, digital tug at my account, as emotionless as the way they'd written me out of their future. I hit decline immediately. Didn't even blink. Mom called right after. I let it ring until the last second before declining. A message popped up a few beats later. Cynthia, I know you saw it. Why did you decline? I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly before responding. Because it's not my responsibility anymore. Ask Tessa. And for the first time in my life, I felt something unfamiliar, control. I wasn't scrambling to patch up other people's messes. I was finally stepping away from the wreckage and letting it burn without me. 2 days passed before Tessa reached out again. You're being so selfish. Didn't you always say family comes first? I read her message again and again. Family. The same family that erased me with a signature and a notary stamp. The one that saw me as a bank account, not a daughter. I wrote back just one line, family means fairness and respect, not using someone until they're no longer needed. After that, the messages stopped. Total silence. But this time, it didn't sting. It felt peaceful. Like laying down a heavy load I should have never been carrying in the first place. But deep down, I knew it was temporary. That silence was just the eye of the storm. They'd come back. They always did, when the bills piled up, when the house faced foreclosure, when Tessa, even with her shiny inheritance, still couldn't manage a budget or remember when rent was due. And when that moment arrived, I'd be ready. Not to rescue them, but to stand my ground. Sure enough, one night near midnight, while I was lost in a historical novel and sipping chamomile tea, my phone lit up. I didn't even need to check who it was to know the tone. You're blowing this way out of proportion, the message read. Everyone's already stressed. Why are you choosing now to be dramatic? It's just a few payments. You've always done it. I laughed, dry and hollow. Just a few payments. Easy to say when you've never paid a single utility bill in your life. I typed back, I'm not being dramatic. I'm being clear. And you'd better get used to it. Less than 60 seconds later, her response popped up. You're seriously selfish. Don't be surprised if Mom and Dad don't forgive you. I set my phone down and didn't feel the usual pang of guilt. For once, I wasn't haunted by thoughts like what if they're mad? Or am I still the good daughter? I'd crossed a line. A quiet but firm line between being taken advantage of and finally standing up for myself. The next morning, I called the bank and had my name taken off the joint mortgage account. I also reached out to the utility companies and canceled every auto payment I had quietly managed for years. Then, I deleted the bill reminders from my phone, like a tiny ritual to mark the end of an unpaid job I never signed up for. That night, I cleaned my little apartment, played my favorite playlist on repeat, and bought myself a rich, chocolate cake I'd always passed up because the money had to go somewhere else. I slept soundly. No alerts. No last-minute payment notifications. I went to work without the weight of 3 other adults strapped to my shoulders. I even signed up for an online art class, something I'd dreamed of for years but never let myself have. And just as my life began to breathe on its own, the past came knocking again. Early the next week, my mom called. I didn't answer. A message followed. Cynthia. We need to talk. Your sister can't figure out how to pay the internet bill. Can you help? I ignored it. 2 days later, another text. The landline was cut. She says she can't log in. I don't know what to do. I read the message, then walked over to my bookshelf. I pulled out that old notebook, my personal archive of passwords, billing dates, and helplines. The one I used every time they forgot something or needed a fix. This time, I closed it. Put it back. I wasn't the family assistant anymore. I wasn't the emergency contact for chaos. 3 days later, yet another message from Tessa landed in my inbox. Are you kidding me right now? The power's about to be shut off. Are you really going to let that happen to our family? I replied with a single line, now I'm just letting everyone deal with their own decisions. Silence again. This time it felt final. Several more days went by without a word, until one morning, my phone rang. The number on the screen wasn't one I recognized. It was Mrs. Caldwell who reached out first, the neighbor who'd lived next to my parents for over 2 decades. She called me one evening, her voice quiet and cautious. Your mom asked if I knew anyone who's selling houses. I think they're struggling, Cynthia. I thanked her, then ended the call. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't smile or cry. I just sat by the window and watched the sunlight filter through the trees outside. And in that moment, it hit me, I wasn't buried under guilt anymore. For the first time, I wasn't being held hostage by duty. I had stepped off the merry-go-round, and I had no intention of climbing back on. The next message came Monday morning, and it wasn't from who I expected. Mr. Hensley, another neighbor who had watched me grow up, sent a text. Cynthia, are your parents all right? Donna asked me what day it was. She seemed confused. But she just got a letter from the bank, a foreclosure notice. I stared at the message, stunned. So, it had happened. And faster than I thought it would. After weeks of me stepping away, of no longer propping everything up from behind the scenes, the house, the one I'd kept together for years, was finally unraveling. An hour later, Mom called. I didn't pick up. Her voicemail came seconds later. Cynthia, please. We really need you right now. It's serious. I read her words, then set the phone down like it belonged to someone else. But deep down, my chest was heavy. I had told myself that when this moment came, I'd feel a grim sense of justice. I didn't. Just a weary, bone-deep exhaustion. I'd spent so long fixing things, maybe I didn't know how to feel anything else. I still didn't respond. 2 days passed. Then, for the first time in weeks, Tessa showed up at my door. She looked exhausted, messy hoodie, makeup smudged or maybe non-existent, and clutching a disheveled stack of papers. "I just need 5 minutes," she said breathlessly. "Just 5 minutes, Cynthia." I stood in the doorway, arms crossed. My expression was blank. "Here to ask for money." "No," she said quickly, voice trembling. "Not money. I just need help talking to the bank. I don't understand the terms. I'm overwhelmed." "What about all that inheritance?" I asked, my voice casual like I was asking about the weather. She looked down, fumbling for words. It's in an investment portfolio. If I pull it now, I get penalized." I didn't expect this to all spiral so quickly. I raised an eyebrow. "But you still signed the paperwork without a second thought." "They said everything was under control." I believed them. "I didn't think." "Exactly. You didn't think." Just like always. Tessa fell quiet. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, not letting her in. "This is the part where you learn, Sam. Everyone stumbles, but if someone's always there to catch them, they never grow." "You're really going to let them lose the house?" she asked, eyes wide. "I'm not letting anything happen. They made choices. Now they face the consequences." I turned and walked away, leaving her alone in the hallway. 3 days later, at a local art center networking event, I bumped into Jake, an old classmate who now worked in real estate. We were chatting about a photography project I'd started when he suddenly paused. "Wait, is your parents' house the one on Vine Street?" I nodded slowly. "Someone on my team mentioned them." "Sounds like it's urgent. They're trying to sell, but the place needs a ton of work. Banks breathing down their neck." "Are you doing okay?" I gave him a small smile. "I'm fine." "Guess they're not." He looked like he wanted to say more, but he didn't. Later that night, as I sat down at my laptop, I noticed an email from a legal aid organization I used to volunteer with in college. They were launching a mentorship program to help seniors manage housing debt. I let out a soft laugh. Life really does come full circle. I sat still for a while before I started the application, not for my family, not to fix what they broke, but for myself. Maybe I couldn't save that house, but if I could use my story to keep someone else from going through what I did, that meant something. That Saturday afternoon, after wrapping up a photography workshop, I pulled into the parking lot of my quiet little apartment, expecting nothing more than tea and an evening to myself. But parked near the gate was a familiar silver minivan, the same one I'd co-signed for 4 years ago when Dad's credit had tanked. Last year, I'd transferred the title to him. A final act of faith. Now, it sat there like a ghost from the past. I got out of my car, my steps slow. My parents stood by the entrance. Tessa trailed behind, her purse clutched tightly, eyes filled with quiet panic. I didn't say anything. Just stopped a few feet away, arms crossed. Waiting. Mom spoke first. Her voice quivered. "Cynthia. I'm sorry we had to come here. But things are bad. The bank's reassessing the property next week." Dad stepped in, quieter than I'd ever heard him. "We made a mistake. I know that. But if they take the house, your mother won't be able to handle it." I looked my father straight in the eyes, my stare colder than it had ever been. "Then why?" I asked, my voice even. "When you sat down to write that will, why did you decide I didn't deserve to be mentioned?" He dropped his gaze, his fingers nervously tugging at the edge of his coat. "We just thought you'd be okay. You've always been the strong one." But Tessa, I cut in, my voice sharp. Gets to fail. Gets to be forgiven. And gets everything handed to her." I turned to face my sister. She didn't say a word. No denial. No weak excuse. Just a tight line across her lips and shame in her eyes. I gave you my youth, I said softly. Every year, every dollar, every ounce of energy, with no strings attached. And what I got in return was erasure. Like it was assumed, oh, Cynthia will handle it. Well, not anymore. Mom started crying, her tears falling fast. We didn't think it would get this bad. Can't you help? Just for a little while, just until we find our footing. I shook my head. I felt something shift inside me, like a wind sweeping away all those years of guilt and obligation. I'm not saying no because I can't help. I'm saying no because if I do, nothing will ever change. You'll keep believing someone will always come save you. Tessa finally spoke, her voice small, cracked around the edges. I didn't think it would get so complicated. I thought we just needed time. I didn't expect you to walk away. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in weeks. I didn't walk away, I said. I warned you. I waited. I hoped. And you all ignored me. So this isn't me ending things. This is me recognizing they were already over. Mom's voice dropped to a whisper. So this is really it. I studied her face, the woman who once cradled me when I had nightmares, who I'd driven to the ER, who I'd cooked for when Dad couldn't anymore. But now, I saw the difference between family by blood and family through love. No, I said quietly. This ended the moment you decided who was worth naming, and who wasn't. No one spoke. The cold autumn wind howled through the trees, its chill cutting deeper than any silence. I stepped onto the porch and pulled my keys from my pocket. Just before heading inside, I turned back. I hope you find a way, I said. But I'm not your lifeline anymore. I looked directly at Tessa, holding her gaze. If you want to grow up, this is your moment. I walked inside and closed the door. Their footsteps faded down the hallway as the wind echoed through the building. I stood there, still, as golden afternoon light stretched across my living room floor. No tears. No heartbreak. Just silence. Peaceful, final. I thought that would be the end. I hoped they'd reflect, feel even a flicker of regret, and fade away quietly out of pride. But I gave them too much credit. A week later, I got a message from Maya, a friend from the art center. Cynthia, are you on Facebook? You really need to check your mom's page. Her timeline was littered with flower pictures, inspirational quotes, and beneath all that, a single post that hit like a slap. A photo of the old house, paired with a gut-punch caption. It's heartbreaking when your own daughter turns her back on family. When aging, sick parents are abandoned in their time of need. After all we sacrificed. It had over 80 shares. The comments were full of support, prayers, comfort, and plenty of judgment aimed at the ungrateful child. I kept scrolling. Then came a post from my dad. We thought Cynthia was someone who loved us. But when we needed her most, she disappeared. Now the house is being taken, and she acts like nothing's happening. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, Tessa chimed in too. Funny how some people are only kind when they're above you. But when family asks for help, they go silent. Guess that's today's version of strong. I clenched my phone. Not in anger. Not even shock. Just tired. They'd tried guilt, and when that didn't work, they moved to public shaming. But they forgot one thing. I wasn't silent anymore. That night, I logged into the Facebook account I hadn't touched in months. I made a single post. No colors. No emojis. Just plain text, and the truth. My family is sharing a one-sided story. So here's mine. I posted a picture of the will, Tessa's name listed as sole beneficiary. I added screenshots of mortgage and utility bills, all in my name. I included Mom's request for $2,600 to save the house. 5 minutes later, the first comment appeared. "Cynthia, you really did all of this?" An old friend had commented. "I can't believe it. You've always been one of the kindest people I know. Don't let anyone make you question that." And just like that, the tide began to turn. One by one, people started sharing my post. Some had known my parents. Others had only known of them. Many expressed surprise. "I always thought Tessa lived kind of recklessly. This explains so much. No one deserves to be used like that, especially not by their own family." The post didn't go viral because it was dramatic or bitter. It spread because it was honest. Because it didn't sugarcoat or hide. It told the truth in plain sight. 2 days later, my mom quietly took down all her posts. I didn't say anything else. Didn't post a follow-up. I just sat in my little apartment, the rain tapping gently against the window, and for the first time in my life, I felt something close to justice. Not revenge. Not satisfaction. Just a quiet peace. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need them to bow their heads or come crawling back. I just needed them to stop. And somehow, they finally had. One post. That's all it took to end years of being silenced. And with that chapter closed, I could finally start writing a new one that wasn't for them, but for me. Since that day, I haven't heard a single word from Mom, Dad, or Tessa. The silence that followed wasn't tense or expectant. It was still, like a lake long after the storm passes. Not the kind of silence that waits, but the kind that accepts. They had finally realized that they lost the only person who always returned after being broken. And I had moved on. Now, no one needed me. And for the first time, that felt like freedom, not loneliness. I started taking long walks after dinner. Unhurried, just enjoying the air. On weekends, I baked again, even posted pictures on Instagram without worrying someone would roll their eyes or call me fake. I made new friends, people from class who didn't know anything about the version of me that used to hold a crumbling family together. Because of that, I finally got to be myself. Just me. Ethan, a realtor friend of mine, texted me one morning. "Hey, Cynthia. Your parents' house is up for sale. Asking $380,000, but no bites yet. Looks like they couldn't fix the roof, or the wiring." I wasn't surprised. No one to crawl into the attic and fix the fuse box at midnight. No one to call the plumber or patch the leaks. No more me. That house had stood for years because I held it up. And now, it looked exactly like what it was, tired, neglected, and slowly falling apart. A few days later, I got a call from Caldwell, the neighbor who'd always kept tabs from across the fence. She was just checking in, but before we hung up, she added gently, "Oh, and it looks like Tessa's moved back in. I see her doing grocery runs now and then. She doesn't seem too happy." I glanced up from my laptop and took a sip of warm coffee. Once upon a time, that kind of news would have made my stomach twist. But not anymore. Now I just shrugged. Maybe what Tessa needed most was to finally feel the instability she always expected someone else to buffer. I wasn't rooting for their downfall. I just wasn't volunteering to carry burdens that were never mine in the first place. My savings account was growing. I also started writing again, not social media rebuttals, but a blog about stepping away from toxic family patterns. Some posts picked up traction. Strangers reached out, thanking me for putting into words what they'd lived but couldn't explain. One rainy afternoon, while editing photos in my favorite cafe, my phone buzzed with a real estate notification. Price dropped $20,000, owner seeking urgent sale. I clicked on the listing. There it was, the house that used to define my life. Shingles cracked, paint faded, fence half collapsed. It once symbolized duty, guilt, and pressure. Now it was just a house, waiting for someone else to fix it. And for once, I didn't feel the pull. I didn't feel the urge to fix or save or return. I was no longer the rescuer. I didn't have to be. I tapped the notification away and smiled, a soft, quiet smile. I used to believe that family was something permanent, something you could never lose. That blood was sacred and unbreakable. But now I know, what makes a family real isn't DNA. It's respect. It's gratitude. It's knowing that your presence is valued, not expected. I had given everything, hoping it would finally make me visible. Instead, I became the name left off a will. The one labeled dramatic just for choosing not to carry everyone else's weight anymore. But I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I had simply let go. They were still there, in that old house now listed for the third time. I'd heard through a friend that whenever potential buyers came by, Tessa tried to play the part, standing tall, speaking confidently, but the moment someone asked about repairs or maintenance records, she'd fumble. Smile awkwardly. Because no one had ever taught her how to take care of things. That had always been my role. I never went back. Not once. At one point, my mom mailed me a handwritten letter, sealed in one of those familiar envelopes I'd seen 100 times growing up. Her handwriting was still steady, still hers. She wrote about sleepless nights. About feeling lost. About how my father wasn't as strong as he once was. At the end, she wrote, "I don't know how much time we have left to fix things. But if you're willing, I'm still here." I didn't tear it up. I didn't reply either. I folded the letter and placed it in the drawer under my desk, beside undeveloped film rolls and unfinished essays. Things waiting for the right time. For clarity. It wasn't hate that kept me away. I just no longer had the strength to keep sacrificing for people who never truly listened. For most of my life, I had stayed silent, for peace, for the illusion of love, for the exhausting role of the good daughter. But I don't do that anymore. Now, I choose a different kind of peace. One that doesn't rely on anyone's approval. I've learned to love myself without conditions. To say no without guilt. To let others deal with the consequences of their choices. And most importantly, I've learned not to look back. They're still my family on paper. In old photos. In distant memories. But they're no longer the axis my life spins around. I don't know what the future holds, if one day there'll be a reunion, or if we'll all continue down separate roads. And I'm okay with that. Because what I finally understand is this. Family isn't just about names or shared genes. It's about being seen. It's about the people who appreciate your presence, who never treat your kindness like currency. And if those people aren't your blood, that's okay. Because I have a family now. Me. And I no longer need to search for it in people who only knew how to take. This isn't a sad story. It's not a tragedy. It's an awakening. I once believed love and sacrifice would always be rewarded. That family bonds could never fray. But the truth is, no one deserves to be taken for granted, not even by the people who raised you. I've learned how to protect my peace. How to walk away when I need to. And how to choose myself, fully, without apology. Now, I live with ease. With freedom. With peace, not because they changed, but because I did.